And welcome back into Open Line. Chuck Long here with you. We're so glad that you've joined us this evening on Ask an Expert. We're talking to the attorney, of course, Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. We want to get right back to the questions so we get to as many as we can before time runs out this evening. I think Norm is on the line with us right now. Norm, we appreciate your patience. We're glad you're with us. And do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes, I do. This is regarding real estate. What is the advantage, one way or the other, if you want to leave something to an heir, say a home to an heir, of using a revocable trust or a will? And I'll hang up and listen to his answer.
Well, first off, if you got a home that's paid for and you want to leave it to a loved, that's one you should probably talk to a private lawyer and see what he says. Would it be better to deed the property right now? And it all determines on the value. Would there be a gift tax if I just gave it to them and deeded it to them? Or would it be better for me just to put it in a will? Or is it better to put it in a revocable trust? Or even an irrevocable trust? Those are things that you should talk to a private lawyer about if you've got a home to pay for. And quite frankly, there's a number of different reasons why people choose each one. And so, me personally, I don't really know. If I had an estate so large and I'm trying to move assets out of the estate, then that's one thing. Another thing is, I have people tell me many times they've deeded homes to their children and then the children quit talking to them. And they said, wow, I wish I'd never did. Can I get it back? Well, not unless you had some reason to. So you really need to discuss the specifics on each one of them. There's some benefits here. As a general rule, I would either use a deed or I would use just a straight will. And there's several reasons why I would do that, but we need to talk in your own particular situation, see what else is involved, and then make an educated, the best you can decision. And it's kind of like when you shoot the pistol, you're aiming, you took your best shot, but it's gone when you pull the trigger. And that's when you sign that deed, it's gone.
All right, good to know. Norma, thank you so much for calling in and the question. We'll go back to the lines right now. So Sharice is on the line with us. Sharice, good evening. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes, I do. My name is Sharice, and our granddaughter recently opened an Airbnb in Tennessee and has had tremendous problems with her neighbor calling the police on the people, her guests that are coming in. She's got all the required licensing and threatened her with a legislative, she works for the legislative in Tennessee, and she's just making a lot of accusations and we believe false statements. So we're just wondering, what's her legal regard on this? The police have already been to the home and said, they need to be quiet after 10 o'clock. Between 2 and 10, they can play music the way they like. And she's just making it real difficult, and even went to the Airbnb where she has the property registered and trying to get her kicked off.
Okay, first off, what I would do is immediately go and talk to a lawyer. What's my options? I think a stinging letter to an unreasonable neighbor is probably the appropriate thing, because it gets down where your neighbor could be charged with harassment. And the truth is, if we own the property, we have a right to peaceful enjoyment. So that goes both ways. So if you had a neighbor that was constantly complaining that you've got too loud of music when you pull in your car, or your dog is doing this or that, and they are disrupting you and your tenants from a reasonable enjoyment, then they've got a problem. So I would get a lawyer and get me a letter and send to them and let them know they're going to take on some legal liability if they pursue that kind of behavior, that there's consequences. Will that get it done? Most of the times, a real strong letter, will it get my attention? It always gets my attention, because I understand somebody had to spend the money, and so many people are in the position, all they want to do is fight. So they're saying, hey, well, some of them say, I'll fight up till there's a lawyer going to sue me, and then we're out some money. Good move. I do it immediately.
All right. Once again, great reason to have a lawyer. All right. We're going back to the lines once again. Pam is on the line with us. Pam, we're glad that you're watching Open Line. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes, sir, I do. Mr. Kennedy, my husband and I
had a will made in Louisiana, and we moved here to Tennessee about 7 years ago. Is that will still good, or do we need to remake a will since we're now living in Tennessee?
Great question, ma'am. And one of the unique things that the audience probably doesn't know, all our laws are based on English law, common law. Guess what? Louisiana is the one separate state that's based on Napoleonic law, which is French law. So I would definitely do a new will in Tennessee. 7 years, you've abandoned that. You're here. I would have a new will done because we want nobody to take on the interpretation. So when we see that there's an issue, and you did excellent, ma'am, by asking the question, but common law and Napoleonic law do not jive together. I've always thought it's sometime, and probably in the next 50 years, they will change the laws in Louisiana to be more like others.
All right. Pam, we're so glad that you called in with that question this evening. Thanks so much. Now, Kevin, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but one of the things that we wanted to bring up, and especially as summer is here or summer is approaching, and, you know, with Memorial Day just around the corner, you see a lot more of the scooters and that sort of thing around. People are often saying, what rights do people on the scooters, especially, in a lot of the cities where you see them, can they be in a bike lane? Can they be on the sidewalk? Can they be in the street? Who has rights? Do the scooter riders have the rights? Do the people who are just in their cars on the roads have the rights? Kind of where do we stand there?
Yeah, let the buyer beware. So you are looking after you, and they are looking after them. And if there's a miscalculation, my friend, and someone's hurt, the lawyers are going to be coming. So if I saw the scooter, that's a good interpretation, and the lawyers will take both sides as soon as there's an accident. The insurance company's going to maintain the scooter had the right to be there. Okay, was it going to be arguing it? The operator of that motor vehicle said, hey, the scooter went outside that. They didn't have the proper lighting. They didn't make the proper signal. So it begs for a lawsuit. So anytime, proceed with caution. And so remember, I'll guarantee you there'll be a stack of interpretation. If the judge says, okay, gentlemen, you lawyers briefed this. We had a scooter and we had a car. Those lawyers will put briefs up this deep on both sides. Then it'll be up for the judge to interpret that and make a decision. You can ride both sides of that fence. I just say be very, very cautious. If we're in the car, you watch them if they turn. When I had my car wreck, and one of the first things I was so glad that the person that turned in front of me wasn't a motorcycle, even though it wasn't my fault. Boy, if you'd hit a motorcycle that hard and that fast, well, somebody's going to get sued. And I understand that. And they say, well, that is the nature of the beast. That's why we always have insurance. I consider people should get an umbrella policy. And what is that? That's where you get another little policy that goes over. And guess what? In my wreck, they didn't have insurance. So I had an uninsured motor. So you got to practice what you preach, Kevin. You're telling everybody else to do it. Did you do it? And so and if I would do it for me, I would recommend doing it for thee. All these things that we do, talk to your insurance. That's insurance companies, they know. And quite frankly, it's very reasonable to do it just a little bit more. And it's massive protection for your family. And so consider that. And just, Chuck, when I see you out on the scooter, I'm going to tell Sarah, throw on the brakes. Don't hit Chuck. No matter what.
Exactly.
Please
Kevin,
don't.
I tell you, we've just got about a minute left, and I always like to kind of get your final thoughts, your words of wisdom. So where are we tonight on your words of wisdom?
Well, tonight, I've said this many times, the battle is not always won by the faster or stronger man, but sooner or later, the victory will go to the man who thinks he can. What does that really mean? Then we, as Christians, we put on the full armor of Christ. And we stand on those scriptures. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We are more than conquerors. So why do I say that? Because I really believe that, Chuck. And it gives us some inspiration as we march forward. What will we face tomorrow? Just like when that car wreck happened to me, came completely out of the blue. We're having a great discussion tonight, intellectual, articulate. but we don't know what we're going to face when we leave here. So our preparation should always kick in. Be the teacher, be a mentor, and then be a mentee to all those who can share in all parts of life. Always learn, always seek knowledge. Remember, Kevin Kennedy said, knowledge is power.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. One of my favorite things that you say. It makes so much sense. It's simple, but I tell you, it's so profound. Kevin, as always, it's been great having you. We look forward to seeing you next time. All right. Well, you folks stay right there. We're going to take absolutely. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll tell you how to get a hold of the Kennedy Law Firm. Right after this, you're watching Open Line.